this is Hannah, and I'm going to be modeling a spelling lesson for teachers as well as parents at home. As we're entering this new school year, students are going to begin to be working with words and being able to build upon their letter knowledge, their phonemic knowledge. They'll be able to make these words this upcoming year. And then in our pre-K through 3, we're still focusing on inventive spelling as a 5th and 6th grade reading teacher. And with 4th grade kind of moving on and hoping to see students focusing on the patterns with prefixes and suffixes, and then seeing root words and being able to decode those phoneme at a time, and they'll be able to see that pattern with specific suffixes and prefixes. So with that, some research that goes along with this, it is said that when children are focusing on decoding, spelling, and vocabulary skills within a classroom, they are most successful. And this is typically done when spelling is successful. It's done within these specific 5 ways: segmenting and building with morphemes, teaching affixes and root meanings, using morphemes to improve spelling, segment and put together compound words, and identify these cognates to support the ELL students. But however, the ELL students and those students who also need some pretty consistent instruction with Tier 2 and Tier 3, these lessons can kind of overlap with them. And with that, today we're going to be focusing on some suffixes that are consistent amongst several words. This makes more sense to students when they see patterns. As well, it is going back to literature that supports this. So, modeling this for this lesson, or if I had this book at home, I always put sticky notes regardless of the purpose of that lesson. Always putting sticky notes. I know that in a class setting, better yet, if I were with a smaller group of children, it would be difficult to look for specific things within a book. I'm not going to be using this entire book today for time purposes. However, if you were, the sticky notes are still incredibly helpful to make sure that the goal of your lesson is carried out with the sticky notes. So if you're looking for inferencing, as we're doing throughout this text, it's good to leave yourself some sticky notes. Looking for specific things to focus on with fluency or comprehension, always good to incorporate these within a text. So our text today is glass slipper, gold, sandal. So within the classroom, it's always good to incorporate diverse literature to allow these students to see themselves in text and to be able to see themselves carried out as characters. So throughout here, I would also be able to use this as a social studies lesson because it provides a fantastic map within here, focusing on a tale that students may or may not know. And if they are not familiar with the tale of Cinderella, it's important then, when you are discussing this text with them, to build background on this text. If they have never heard of Cinderella, this is a great opportunity to give them some key information. How Cinderella went to the ball, she lost her glass slipper, and the prince came around to all these different houses trying to identify who it was. And none of the shoes fit, except the shoe fit Cinderella, who was the housekeeper. And not a housekeeper, she was having to clean the floors for her stepsisters. And so that is why this is so important. However, I don't know what's going on with that gold sandal. Who in here has some sandals that they have? So asking that, and maybe thinking of, is there a different country? I know that they just showed this map. Is there a different country that maybe that is based off of? We'll have to read and see. So incorporating that into a read, thinking about the text, any key pictures that they show us. Perhaps this is a gold sandal. And then Newbery Award for winning author. And then, of course, going back to the print awareness with every text, beginning very early on. So then, opening up, still having some great pictures with some different things that could be around the world. We could use inferencing if we've already been studying these sorts of countries and making some inferences of which country maybe this would be appropriate for. A closed-toe shoe, maybe that's a colder country if they're having a closed toe. I see some sandals, maybe that's a warmer climate. If we've been discussing some cardinal directions, thinking about which one based on our actual turn would be warmer, different portions of the year. So now I would be turning to my first sticky note page and just focusing on the words that I am, the 4 that I'm going to have the student work with me on, and then the 5th it's going to be done as an individual demonstration to see if they understand our lesson. So, knowing my first word as well as I marks it on my sticky note, but when the girl was out tending the cattle, the beast heard her crying for hunger. "Don't weep," said one of the cows, and the animal poured honey for her from its horn. Okay, so I know that my word is going to be poured. So I could, at that time, have the student start thinking about that word poured. And then anything else that I wanted to discuss off of this page could be then mentioned. I have, going back to our diverse literature, I have a Russia and Iran and then India. So if I have discussed any of that with a student lately, or this would be a great opportunity to discuss some things that maybe are focused in that country that we're not perhaps exclusive to. So then I would be turning to my next page. Okay, to make sure the girl couldn't go, the stepmother threw an apronful of lentils into the ashes and ordered her to pick them all out. Okay, so if the student does understand the story of Cinderella, you could have them think back and make a connection from text to text about how this is somewhat similar to the real Cinderella story. So then talk about how this is in Germany and some other countries along here. And our word on this page is ordered. So then I would go back to my other page and repeat that word to that student, poured, and then ordered. So what do I hear that's similar between those two words? Looking for an ED sound on those two words. Okay, I've skipped a few pages, of course, and if you were in a classroom setting or at home with a student, you could, of course, read the entire text. The girl was free to go, but she had nothing to wear except rags. Then she looked in her mother's sewing basket. And my next word is looked. So then going back to those other two words and seeing what the third one had in common, the ED on the end would be what I was looking for. So I would then flip on over to look for the word reached and read that to the student. Now I'm going to go back to our focus of this and would give the student a second to get Play-Doh out. And I would have the student, have the student listen for those words again and one by one make those words with that Play-Doh. So pour and ordered, looked, and then reached. So how I would have this, I would already have the words written out and have them see them spelled out, and then ask them again, looking for the connection amongst those words, the ED. So and then ask them, is pour a word without the ED on there? Yes, so poured. And then ordered, looked, reached. And then after I've had them make these words with the Play-Doh and see the connection, have them kind of line them up the best I can and see that we have our root word and then we have our affix or suffix on the end. And then after I have done that, I'm going to have that student on their own to make sure that they understand our purpose of the lesson. Try the word picked, which is also in the text. So picked, and then seeing that they can understand that pick is a word without the ED on there, and then seeing that with the spelling, the ED added on there, that is our word for the story. So again, having them look at the words and having them see on, now that the words are spelled out, the connection between the word and the spelling, see what they have in common. After we've read it, I've read it out to them and had them listen for it, as well as see it on the paper. So of course this would be an upper elementary lesson. And then be able to individually demonstrate their knowledge of our goal for the day, not necessarily spelling them perfectly, but rather looking for those patterns and being able to use that ED on that word for picked, and using the Play-Doh for that to see that in a actual setting, and then being able to apply it to their spelling knowledge and their spelling patterns with that. So of course it can be done with any book. I have just however picked this because it is always nice to see some diversity in the classroom classroom, and being able to see something that is different for them, and being able to kind of apply this across the curriculum and just think about some different ways to incorporate this book, as well as practice some spelling with this. And of course, it'd be a great writing opportunity to do some compare and contrast, and be able to use this as the focus for the mentor text.